Seminars give you the chance to gain a deeper understanding of your subject by working with others to discuss ideas, ask and answer questions, try out new approaches, and develop solutions to key problems. You'll get more out of this opportunity by actively participating in the seminar, but not all participation looks the same. You might choose to participate by offering your own insights for discussion, or you might participate by responding to and developing the ideas of other students, or you might prefer to actively provide space for others to contribute. Broadly speaking, there are three main types of seminar participation that can be used to help yourself and others gain a deeper understanding of your subject and generally get the most out of a seminar. These are speculating, enabling, and challenging. Let's have a closer look at each of these behaviours and some strategies for putting them into action. So let's start with speculating. When you think of what participating in a seminar looks like, your first thought might well be of someone talking a lot and answering questions with lots of sophisticated, well thought out, or just quite complicated answers. Now, there's nothing wrong with coming up with a sophisticated idea or answer every now and then, but it certainly isn't the standard expectation. And trying to do this all the time isn't just unsustainable, it's not always particularly helpful in a seminar either. After all, the purpose of a seminar isn't to impress everyone in the room with your mastery of the subject, but to work together as a group to develop your collective learning and understanding beyond what you could do as individuals. And if one or two students are doing all the talking and providing lots of complex answers, it can be harder for others to join in the conversation and contribute their ideas and their perspectives. And this just makes group learning a lot harder. So whereas providing complex, pre-formed answers might build a barrier to group discussion, speculating invites dialogue by indicating that you're open to new ideas and providing the space for others to contribute, giving you and everyone in the seminar a chance to learn from one another. So here are some helpful speculative behaviours you can try. Thinking aloud. You don't need to provide a fully coherent or worked out answer right away. Group learning gives you the chance to learn from different approaches to solving problems in your subject, and we can often learn more from seeing how someone arrives at an answer than from the answer itself. So it's perfectly fine to just think aloud, consider possible avenues of exploration, go back on yourself, or just provide a starting point or one step in the process for others to develop. Remember, in a seminar, we're still in the process of working things out, so you're not expected to have all the answers right away. Using hedging language. Although you may have a good response to a particular question or problem in mind, the kind of questions asked at university level often have more than one answer. Using hedging language that expresses uncertainty like perhaps, maybe, or one response might be, when explaining your ideas can signal to others that you're open to alternative perspectives and invite them to contribute, take it further, or even disagree. Opening up the conversation. Speculating can be especially helpful for getting the conversation flowing when you've been set a question or task. So if you're initially faced with silence or hesitation from others in your group or seminar, you can get things started with speculation in a couple of ways. You could try selecting a particular aspect or starting point to focus on, saying something like, "Oh, this particular thing really grabbed my attention because it seems to be such an original perspective. What do you all think?" You could try providing a personal opinion or first response and asking others what they think about that. So maybe by saying something like, "My immediate response is that this feels kind of dated, but what are your thoughts?" You might want to clarify the instructions or issues and say something like, "So am I right in thinking that the main argument in this piece is whatever?" Or, if you feel comfortable doing so, you could even try disclosing something that you personally find confusing or unclear. Saying something like, "One thing I just really don't get is whatever that is. What did you understand by that?" Using these kind of low-key, low-pressure strategies can be a good way of getting the ball rolling, helping you and others open up and getting talking while still staying on topic. Participation doesn't necessarily mean speaking a lot, and there are lots of other ways of contributing to a seminar. Enabling behaviours are often quite subtle, and as a result they're easy to overlook, but they really are a vital form of participation that can help everyone make the most of group learning and making sure that the seminar runs smoothly. And because enabling activities often feel a bit less exposing, they make quite good entry points into seminar participation if it's not something you feel entirely comfortable with yet. So here are a couple of particularly helpful enabling behaviours. Summarising. So when others are speaking in seminars, you may notice them having difficulty finding the right words or articulating exactly what it is they want to say. If you see this happening, you can help clarify their ideas and give them the opportunity to self-correct by trying to summarise what they're saying. Saying something like, "So are you basically saying that?" Whatever. This can help the speaker by providing the language or outside perspective necessary to hone their point. And you don't have to worry about the summary being exactly right either. A summary that's a bit off can be just as useful for helping the speaker correct any possible misconceptions and bring the conversation back on track. And summarising can also help the rest of the group by providing an alternative explanation that complements or brings out certain elements in the first explanation. Continuing and carrying on. You may notice others running out of steam partway through speaking. This is a completely normal thing to happen, and they may just be collecting their thoughts before carrying on. But if you feel that your classmate would appreciate some support, you can try and pick the thread back up by developing the idea further or providing your own insights. But before doing this, make sure you've given the speaker enough space and time to self-correct. Otherwise, you might accidentally end up interrupting, derailing, or taking over the conversation unnecessarily. Paying close attention to the speaker's body language and eye contact can be a good way of determining whether they are just taking their time, thinking, or feeling uncomfortable and would appreciate someone else picking up the conversation. And in just the same way, if you find yourself running out of steam or losing your train of thought while speaking, you can always effectively hand over the conversation by opening it up to the rest of the group and saying something like, "But what does everyone else think about this?" Drawing connections. So one of the main benefits of seminars is that they bring together lots of different people with lots of different ideas, experiences and perspectives. And this diversity can really enrich our thinking. But it does also mean that seminars can sometimes feel a bit fragmented or be difficult to bring together into a cohesive whole. You might have one question with about 6 different responses. So what do you do from there? Well, drawing connections between different people's ideas, or between ideas being discussed and the text or theory studied elsewhere, can help the whole group to synthesize these ideas and paint a fuller picture of the issues being discussed. These connections and comparisons can also draw attention to specific similarities or specific differences that can then act as a starting point of a further, more focused discussion. Offering non-verbal encouragement. Talking in front of others can be a pretty daunting task, especially in a seminar environment. If you notice others having difficulty speaking or maybe losing confidence in what they're saying, you can offer small but valuable gestures of encouragement with non-verbal feedback like nodding, smiling, giving eye contact, and using open body language. Obviously, if your seminar is online, then your ability to express and read body language will probably be a bit more limited. But you can still offer encouragement and let the speaker know that you're following with very brief comments in the text box, using emojis like the thumbs up icon, and occasionally looking at the camera rather than the screen to simulate eye contact. Using the silence. Silence can sometimes feel uncomfortable, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we just need a few moments to think things over, especially when working at university level. If you tend to talk a lot but notice that some people in the seminar are finding it difficult to contribute, try counting to 10 before speaking up. Leaning into the silence might feel a bit awkward at first, but others in the seminar can benefit from having a bit longer to think about things, or a more obvious pause in the conversation where they can come in with their own ideas. And it can actually be even harder to know where to come in when having an online seminar due to the possibility of audio delays or just the general awkwardness of talking online. So it's worth leaving a small pause after someone's spoken in a webinar to give others a chance to chip in. Challenging. Challenging other people's ideas can feel intimidating, but they can really make those ideas stronger by correcting assumptions, anticipating possible problems, or bringing in alternative approaches and perspectives. It's normal to feel concerned about causing offence or creating an awkward atmosphere, and this definitely can happen if challenging is done badly or thoughtlessly. but when done productively, challenging ideas can be a form of collaboration rather than confrontation. So here are some ways you can make sure your challenges stay productive rather than confrontational. Addressing the idea. We're more likely to get defensive if we feel personally attacked. So when challenging, make sure you're using impersonal language that focuses your critique on the idea rather than the individual. So for example, rather than saying something like, you haven't thought about issues of scaling, try, well, that approach doesn't really take issues of scaling into account. Small changes in your language like this can really help create a more collaborative dynamic. Offering possible solutions. Although it can be helpful to pick out a couple of issues or problems, if you keep doing so without offering possible ways these problems might be addressed, it can make others frustrated or reluctant to contribute. Why offer something if it's just going to be shot down? Now, you don't have to have all the answers at hand, but even just a little bit of speculation about how you might start to think about solutions to the problems you've identified can provide a starting point for moving forward. And it reinforces the fact that you're both on the same side and you're both committed to solving the issue at hand. Staying flexible. Sometimes after you challenge someone's ideas, that person will reject the criticism outright or provide a counter-argument, and that's okay. The ultimate goal isn't to somehow win the conversation by convincing everyone else in the seminar that you're right and the other person's wrong. You're just providing input that can benefit the group as a whole. So if you still think your point is valid and feel satisfied that you've made it clearly, then there's nothing wrong with just accepting that you've come to different conclusions and moving on. Or maybe, if the person you're challenging provides a counter-argument that you actually find pretty persuasive, then you're totally free to change your mind. This kind of flexibility of thought is a strength rather than a weakness, and without it, it's pretty easy to fall into a kind of tennis match of arguing back and forth, which just makes it harder to engage in constructive dialogue or for others to join in the conversation. There's no single correct way to participate in a seminar, and how you do so will depend on a variety of factors such as your own aims and preferences, what you've been asked to do, and who you're doing it with. Although you may find yourself naturally gravitating towards a particular role due to habit, remember that speculating, enabling, and challenges are behaviours rather than types of people. So don't feel constrained to any one type of participation. Depending on the situation, you might want to switch between different types of participation, or use different combinations of the strategies outlined above. For example, if you've been asked to work in a group with others that you know find it difficult to speak up, you may want to start with some silence to provide thinking time, and then if no one speaks, you could get the conversation going with some opening speculation, perhaps by identifying an area that you've personally had difficulty with. Or if someone says something that you disagree with and you want to hear what others think, you could start by challenging the idea, then speculate on possible solutions using hedging language, and finish by handing the discussion over to the rest of the group.